Hello, my name is Liina and I'm from the University of Tartu in Estonia. I will be presenting a pilot study on the prosody of rhetorical and information-seeking questions in Estonian. This study was carried out together with Heete Sahkai from the Institute of the Estonian Language and Pärtel Lippus from the University of Tartu. The aim of the study was to identify the prosody of rhetorical questions in Estonian and to determine which prosodical features distinguish rhetorical questions from information-seeking questions. As Estonian belongs to the family of Finno-Ugric languages, we're also hoping to add to the discussion on the prosodic typology of speech acts with this study. The present study adapts the methodology of earlier research on the prosody of rhetorical questions in 3 Germanic languages, German, English and Icelandic, carried out by Nicole De, Bettina Brown and colleagues. All the examined languages have been shown to distinguish between rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions with clear phonological and phonetic means. The distinctive phonological features include, for instance, types of boundary tones and the distribution and alignment of pitch accents. A common phonetic feature that differentiates rhetorical questions from information-seeking questions has been shown to be duration. For instance, it was shown for German that rhetorical questions were longer in duration than information-seeking questions. Phonetic features have also been shown to have a disambiguating function when phonological differences are absent, and this suggests that there is a direct correlation between the phonetic realization and speech acts. Estonian intonational phonology differs in several respects from that of Germanic languages. Estonian possesses a relatively small inventory of pitch accent types. The 2 main pitch accents in Estonian are H* plus L and H plus L star. H* plus L is the default pitch accent, and a series of these accents constitutes the default intonation contour. The low accentuation H plus L star never appears in questions and could be considered marked in that it is associated with assertive force and utterance finality. Phrase accents are not used in Estonian intonational phonology, and the by default low ending boundaries are left unmarked, in contrast with high boundary tones that are marked as H%. Sentence types and speech acts are not associated with a particular boundary tone in Estonian. On the basis of previous findings on the prosody of rhetorical questions in Germanic languages and work on Estonian intonation, we hypothesized that rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions in Estonian are distinguished by several prosodic features. Firstly, the distribution of pitch accents. We expect rhetorical questions to have more prenuclear accents and/or an earlier nuclear accent placement, as in Germanic languages. Secondly, utterance duration. We expect rhetorical questions to have a longer duration, as has been also shown for Germanic languages. And thirdly, mean F0 and pitch range. On the basis of earlier research on Estonian statements as opposed to questions, we expect rhetorical questions to have a lower pitch level and a narrower pitch range. Boundary tone type is hypothesized not to play a role in distinguishing between rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions, as it has not been found to signal a particular speech act in Estonian. For the materials of the study, we used a subset of test items from earlier studies by Nicole De and colleagues. We translated these into Estonian and adapted with some modifications. In total, the materials comprised 12 polar questions and 12 WH questions. Each question contained 3 sentence constituents: subject, verb, and object. 2 different context descriptions were constructed for each polar and WH question. So one context elicited an information seeking question reading and the other a rhetorical question reading. In total, there were 24 rhetorical questions and 24 information-seeking questions. The materials were divided into 2 lists, each containing 12 rhetorical questions and 12 information-seeking questions, comprising 6 pairs of Polo questions and 6 pairs of WH questions, as well as 24 fillers. Each list was presented in a random order to 3 speakers. We recorded the materials from 6 young female speakers of standard Estonian, and the recordings were made in the sound-detected booth at the phonetics lab of the University of Tartu using a Pärtel demo script. The test was self-paced, and there was an option to re-record the latest item. And the test started with a short practice session, including 3 trial situations. In total, 144 test items were recorded. 2 utterances had to be excluded from the final analysis due to mispronunciations. I will now play you some examples from our materials. In the panels on the left, you can see the Polo questions, and the test sentence here translates into English as, "Does anyone eat wieners?" And in the panels on the right, there are WH questions with the English translation of the sentence as, "Who eats wieners?" Information-seeking questions appear in the top panels marked by the blue sound buttons, and rhetorical questions in the bottom panels marked by the green buttons. First of all, I will play you an information-seeking Polo question.
Kas keegi sööb viinereid?
And now a rhetorical Polo question.
Kas keegi sööb viinereid?
And now an information-seeking WH question.
Kes sööb viinereid?
And finally, a rhetorical WH question.
Kes sööb viinereid?
The test utterances were automatically segmented and manually corrected, as well as annotated for pitch accents and boundary tones in Prat. And the acoustic data that was extracted using a Prat script included utterance duration, the duration of the subject, mean F0 of the utterance, pitch range of the whole utterance. The results were tested using linear mixed models with question type as the fixed factor and random intercepts for speaker and test token. And now to our results. In this figure, you can see the distribution of pitch accents and boundary tones by constituent type and speech act. The blue bars mark the information-seeking questions, and the green bars the rhetorical questions. So it can clearly be seen that the subject was nearly always accented in both information-seeking questions and rhetorical questions, and there were no differences between the question types. As to the verb, it was more often accented in rhetorical questions than in information-seeking questions, and this difference was significant. And there was no difference between the question types within information-seeking questions, and there was only a slight difference within rhetorical questions, where the verb received an accent slightly more often in WH questions than in Polo questions. There was no significant difference between rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions with respect to object receiving an accent. And as can be seen in this figure, there was also slightly more intonational variation in information-seeking questions. So you can see that the blue bars just appear for more different accent types. As to boundary tones, there was a significant difference between the 2 speech acts. High boundary tones occurred significantly more often in information-seeking questions than in rhetorical questions. There was also a difference in question types here. So rhetorical Polo questions exhibited more high boundaries than WH questions, whereas within information-seeking questions, H% occurred slightly more frequently in WH questions than in polar questions. But all in all, we can see that there were significantly more pitch accents in rhetorical questions than in information-seeking questions. And now let's look at duration. The figure on the left compares the duration of information-seeking questions and rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions were on average approximately 200 milliseconds longer than information-seeking questions, and this difference is significant. The figure on the right shows the duration of the subject in rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions separately for the two question types. Polar questions, marked by gus here, and WH questions marked by guess. The duration of the subject in polar questions was always longer than in WH questions because of more material in the subject position. But it can be seen that in both polar and WH questions, the subject was significantly longer in rhetorical questions than in information-seeking questions. And now let's look at pitch. The figure on the left represents the mean F0 of the utterance in the two speech act types. There is a significant difference between rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions, and the mean F0 in rhetorical questions is on average 26 Hz lower than in information-seeking questions. The figure on the right represents the F0 range in the two speech act types. The F0 range of rhetorical questions is approximately 24 Hz narrower than that of information-seeking questions, and this difference is significant. This study has shown that there are a number of prosodic differences between rhetorical questions and information-seeking questions in Estonian. The main phonological difference between information-seeking questions and rhetorical questions was a denser distribution of pre-nuclear pitch accents in rhetorical questions, and that was also found in Germanic languages earlier. Other phonological features, for instance, pitch accent type and the placement of nuclear pitch accents, did not play a significant role in Estonian. And while we saw that the high boundary tone was significantly more frequent in information-seeking questions, its use was actually rather speaker-specific. The study showed, however, that there are various phonetic features that differentiate rhetorical questions from information-seeking questions in Estonian. Rhetorical questions are characterized by greater duration, smaller pitch range, and lower mean pitch. So we can conclude that Estonian, unlike, for instance, Germanic languages, seems to prefer to use phonetic rather than phonological means in order to prosodically signal the difference between speech acts. And here you can see references that were used in this PowerPoint presentation. There are more references in the written version of this paper. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments on this piece of research, you're very welcome to contact us by email. And do please read our paper in the proceedings. Thank you very much.